The 90s were a golden age for anime in America. We got a plethora of iconic series from Dragon Ball Z to One Piece to Pokemon to Sailor Moon. In a beautiful show of cultural diffusion, these Japanese stories were being shown to a brand new audience. But they're a little too gay. And Japanese.
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite!
Before anime became the mainstream mega medium that it is today, many American production companies saw it necessary to warp it into something that would be more palatable for Western audiences. In more innocent cases, this involved censoring scenes that may not have been appropriate for the very young American fan base for anime. In others, it just wasn't all that necessary. Some of the most meme-worthy Westernization came from the Pokemon anime. Multiple references to Japanese culture were straight up removed under the logic that they would confuse American audiences. This, of course, is where you get the iconic jelly donut incident in which Brock is touting about how he loves jelly donuts while he's clearly not holding a jelly donut. These are actually called onigiri, also known as Japanese rice balls. I don't know why they didn't just call it that. It's so silly to me. In another episode, the kids are offered ofuda, which is a religious talisman that's supposed to be imbued with the power of the gods, and they protect their users from evil spirits. They call them anti-ghost stickers in the American version of Pokemon. Another iconic anime at the time, Sailor Moon, was also heavily westernized. One of the more controversial changes, though, was removing the gay relationship between Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. Instead, they made them cousins in the American version, which sounds more tolerable to me. Yeah. In Dragon Ball Z, one of the most popular anime of all time, you also saw some westernization of Goku's character. One specific instance of this that's talked about a lot is whenever Goku goes Super Saiyan for the first time, when he delivers his iconic I am speech. In the original speech, Goku acknowledges that while he has a calm and quiet heart, he's also a legendary warrior awakened by rage. In the American version, he gets on his high horse and goes on some Superman-like tangent about being the hope of the universe or something. Apparently a more nuanced hero is something we Americans just can't understand. But not all westernization was done specifically for cultural reasons. Some of the censorship was just to make things more kid-friendly. In many cases though, it was still pretty silly and probably unnecessary. Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance, straight up lied to us. You know the Shadow Realm? You know, the one thing you remember from Yu-Gi-Oh besides Blue Eyes White Dragon? Or Pot of Greed? It doesn't exist. It was actually just made up to replace unaliving. You know, in fact, I think I'm gonna follow suit on this one. Instead of saying unalive in these videos for monetization purposes, I'm gonna say banished to the Shadow Realm. Speaking of monetization, guns were also very highly subjected to censorship. One Piece would replace them with toy guns or other kind of weapons, and Yu-Gi-Oh would straight up make them a figment of your imagination. In terms of the ridiculous kid-friendly censorship though, I think Dragon Ball Z has to be the king. For instance, it was deemed that when Gohan was crying about being abducted, that just wasn't kid-friendly, so they removed his tears. You also had these guys from Hell, whose shirts instead say HFIL in the American version. That's Home for Infinite Losers, which is, basically, supposedly. And then of course you have the iconic helicopter scene where Tien claims to see these people's parachutes.
Look, I can see their parachutes. They're okay.
Okay, Tien, they're definitely banished to the Shadow Realm. As I poke fun at some of this crazy censorship, I do have to say, in some cases, I think I'm with them. One case that I think is absolutely valid is the infamous Beauty and the Beach episode of Pokemon. Currently banned in America, this episode had some pretty weird scenes. For starters, we see Misty being catcalled by an old man and also participating in a bikini competition. You know Misty, the 10-year-old? Just as crazy is a scene where we see James from Team Rocket sporting his newfound womanhood and bragging about it to Misty, the 10-year-old. So yeah, I think it's okay that they canned that one. That one might have been necessary. One of the other major ways that anime was westernized was through the music. Some anime openings, such as with the original Dragon Ball, were just the Japanese song but with English lyrics, which was okay. Others were completely scrapped to make new ones. Dragon Ball's successor, for instance, Dragon Ball Z, ditched the iconic Sha-La Het Sha-La for the more action-oriented Dragon, rock the dragon balls. That was pretty good. Same with Pokemon with Better Catch 'Em All, scrapping the old opening to use the American-made marketing tagline, "Some more toys." It was a banger though. But how has westernization and anime changed today? Well, if you're a fan of anime today, which I'm assuming you are because you are awesomely supporting a small anime creator on YouTube, thank you so much, like and subscribe please, you'll notice that many anime today remain largely true to the source material here in the States. That's not to say that anime doesn't get westernized anymore, it still does, but just in different ways I think. Dandadan is a great example of this. Dandadan, which was one of the biggest anime last year, had its dubbed version released at the same time as its sub version. Of course, this was to accommodate for the fact that many English-speaking anime viewers would rather see the show like that. Both the dubbed and the sub version do a great job of keeping the cultural references from Japan intact. However, with the dubbed version, you will see some subtle nods to American culture in the way that the characters talk.
These nuts?
Oh my god, bro.
In all seriousness, these changes seem a lot less slimy and more just like subtle nods to, the English-speaking anime community. To understand why things changed so much, we need to look back at the 90s. In the wake of anime's growing popularity, a plethora of American companies were erected to adapt them for Western audiences. And of course these companies knew that they had the responsibility to make these faithful adaptations. Psych! Just kidding, they wanted to make money selling kids' toys. So they needed to make sure that anime fit into the standards of American kids television. This of course led to some absolute hilarity. Since then though, in America, views on anime have really changed. It's no longer seen as just a cartoon for kids. This cultural shift largely has to do with the invention of the internet and streaming services. You see, once there was no longer a need to warp anime for kids networks and, toy marketing, it slowly evolved from a niche interest to a largely respected and mainstream form of entertainment. These stories have shown that they can transcend cultural barriers just the way that they are. Whether you're Japanese or American or Mexican or Italian or tall or short or, green or blue, seeing Goku surpass his limits and go Super Saiyan for the first time, how does that not resonate with you, And if you want to see the global impact of anime, just look at the Olympics. The amount of athletes you had, doing freaking domain expansion, it was crazy, dude. So was the westernization of anime a bad thing? Well, as I was doing research for this video, I naturally came across the original Pokemon opening, Gotta Catch 'Em All. And good lord, it is nostalgic. I mean, some of my best childhood memories were singing along to this song and poker rap or whatever. It's hard for me to call these things distinctly bad. I'm glad that we live in a world where anime is more generally accepted, but I can't really say whether or not I'd be a fan as much as I am today without poker rap. No, but really, as egregious as some of that censorship was back in the day, if anything, I'm just glad that so many people were able to get into the, awesome world of anime. Oh yeah, and I think that seeing James from Pokemon with, woman parts, probably is no good for any child's development, Japanese or American, so. Whoa, you made it to the end of the video. Make sure to check out this one if you liked the current one that you're on, and also subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Catch you later, I guess.